Okay, hi, John.
Hi.
Okay, so now let's have a few discussions on the subject of mathematics and like some questions that I'm personally very interested in. I think the first one is, to what extent is math related to the arts? What does it mean when someone says math is beautiful or the proof is beautiful? I had this question because like in my math internal assessment that I did, it's kind of like a fuse between mathematics and also the arts. So I'm just very interested to see from your perspective as you pursue on a higher education in mathematics, how does that, relate to your subject even more?
Right, so when you talk about the beauty of math, I feel like there are two different meanings to that. I've met like professors or maybe PhD students, when they talk about the
Mhm.
beauty of math, they think that proving an abstract theorem is very beautiful. They think that it's very finding the connection between two different ideas. They find that very beautiful itself, and they tell you, "Oh,
Mhm.
math is beautiful." I think what you were getting at is how
Mhm.
math is used to describe beauty, like
Yeah,
how
yeah.
you use math to describe art, to create art. And well, I feel like um it's very difficult because when it comes to art, what is beauty? Like that's a
Mm.
that's a whole new question to discuss, and I'm sure you'll have other guests who will give you a better explanation or discussion on that. But what I'm trying to say is math is always a tool. If you want to use it, it's there. But as an
Mhm.
artist, if you're not interested in the math, then go ahead. You don't have to use the math. So
Right.
is it related? Well, there are relations. You can use it. Like when as a painter, if you like to draw a perfect circle and you want a uniform radius, okay,
Mm.
math is there to help you draw like perfect circle. But if you are like depending on your art style, if you don't need math, if you're fine with like wavy lines, imperfect circles, or maybe like you don't care if it's a circle, if it's an it's a conception, it's I don't know, it's a bubble, whatever you want,
Mm.
then you don't need
Yeah.
math. So it really depends on the artist.
But personally,
Right.
what do you think is appealing to you about maths?
What's appealing about math?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Why do you
that
like math?
why do I like math?
Yeah.
Uh, that's interesting. I honestly don't know. I've never thought about this question. It's almost like asking
Yeah.
you like why are you in love with your girlfriend? You just can't explain.
Oh,
You,
Oh
really?
yeah,
Can you not explain that?
no, actually, you just love her, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoy doing math. Like
Uh,
it's
mm,
intellectually engaging. It's challenging.
Mm.
I feel like it opens a whole new way of thinking.
mm.
I think that's one of the main reasons why I enjoy math. Like you approach problems differently. You
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I like how you broke this question down to two parts. So one is like purely math the proof. Like I guess sometimes the beauty is almost like it's so satisfying to see
Yeah.
things that you normally don't group together like become like formulated into an equation and stuff. And I also like how you mentioned about like mathematics and the arts and whether it's beautiful in the arts because like what it brought to me like immediately is something to do with also like intuition in the arts and also like mathematics because like so many paintings and drawings that are regarded as beautiful or like high quality even like usually when you break it down to the mathematics like the golden ratio like everything like it's in a perfectly beautiful shape and whether it's intentionally created by the artist or unintentionally like that is where I feel like it's where I can see how like painting the arts is related to math in terms of how it's just naturally appealing to use many math concepts to kind of even in a very objective way explain why a particular artwork might be perceived as beautiful by a lot of people. And another question that I have is kind of related to what you previously talked about with Joshua, where I remember you mentioned so much about calculus and also like, different knowledges, like also like paradigm shifts. So I actually have a question is that do you think most scientific knowledge or mathematical knowledge right now has been actually discovered already, and like even the application of the newly discovered knowledge nowadays will possibly not be in use until like late future? I had this idea because like like before I really do enjoy mathematics, and then I
Before.
definitely
Yeah.
So tragic.
I mean
Ex-lover.
I think, well, yeah, I'm definitely gonna come back to that when it comes to like something to do with like mathematics education. But like, yeah, I guess somewhere in my heart I still like mathematics because I do completely agree with you, like how it can intellectually challenge you and like make you think in a completely different way. So I was looking at the Fields Award, which was presented in July, and then um some like one of the field medalists, Professor Marina Wyazowska, and she said that what we are doing, of course, is shaping the future. Maybe it will be used 100 years from now, but it's still important. So I just kind of want to know your opinions and views on the mathematical knowledge that is being discovered nowadays and its application in the future.
Well, I still believe that math is a tool. So an analogy would be, is it useful to develop new tools if you don't know how to use it yet?
Mm.
So
Mm.
that's really difficult because if no one figures out how to use it, that tool is not useful.
Yeah.
But I feel like mathematicians, we still create these tools in case someone needs to use it, I feel
Mm.
like. And
Right.
and most of the time I believe that when they create this tool, they have like a brief idea of how to use it. Like they have a brief
Mm.
idea in mind.
Yeah.
And maybe to us, we don't understand the tool to begin with. That's why we think it's not useful.
Mm.
But for people who are dealing with complex problems, like problems where we have no idea how to solve,
Mm.
developing different tools might be the first step to solving the problem. Maybe we can't solve the problem
Mm.
simply because we don't have the tools. And
Mm.
another thing is, um, well, maybe we feel like knowledge in math.
Mm.
Maybe we feel like we've discovered most of the knowledge in math because we are able to do a lot more than what we could have like
Mm.
1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But I'd like to emphasize that we don't know what we don't know. We don't know
Mm.
what like what's unknown to us.
Yeah.
We don't know what we don't know. That's like
Right.
so. Maybe in 1,000 years' time, people would look back and say, "Oh, that tool that was developed here was really
Mm.
crucial to development of math in the next like few hundred years."
Yeah.
Like imagine
Yeah.
people back then 1,000 years ago, maybe they thought they've
Mm.
learned all the math, like they can figure out the area of a triangle. Maybe to them like that's the peak of what
Yeah.
they thought they could do. But well, until now we have computer science, we have statistics.
Mm.
So like yeah, so I feel like
Mm.
there's still a long way to go for math.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, the way that you put it is like super understandable by like common people, and yeah, that definitely makes us like question about, like the future and yeah, because like I thought about calculus, like how it was just like a fun project possibly that Newton had, and like it has it has become so useful in nowadays. And speaking of like computer science,
Do you think AI could replace, the work of, mathematicians or people doing math?
Okay, so I think the computer, but the word itself,
Mm.
it's good at
mm,
computing,
yes,
but
yeah,
it doesn't know what to compute unless we tell it, unless we
Mm.
tell the computer what it needs to do.
Mhm.
And like that's where programming comes into play.
yeah,
I
yeah.
I can't say for certain, like if like in 50 years there's like a genius computer that does everything we can do, like then I'll be sad, but I can't eliminate that possibility. But I feel like computers are still a long way off what we can do, and I feel like the things mathematicians, statisticians, the things we can do, it's currently irreplaceable by computers. If anything, AI helps us do these tedious computations. Like, I feel like what we do in secondary school, it's less like most of it is computation. Like we're trying to evaluate an integral and stuff like that. That's easily replaceable by a computer. Like if I allowed you to use computer software to do your math exam, your secondary math exam, you would do a lot better. But I feel like in mathematical research, it's simply a tool to help us do our computations, and it's not going to replace what we're doing.
Oh, that's very interesting. So, when it comes down to it, what would you say is the definitive quality that humans have over computers that prevent them from replacing our work in mathematics?
I feel like that'd be creative thinking.
Mm.
The computer, well, Talia, again, you've done programming.
Oh, yeah.
The computer can
It's
only do what
stupid.
you tell it to do.
Yeah.
Like
Like
if you're coding and you put an extra comma, it doesn't know
it
what that
fails.
comma is. But if you show
Yeah.
that to a human, we know that's probably just a syntax error because Telia is careless. Okay, so
Yeah.
so that's a difference between a human and a computer. Maybe in the future we can codify this way of thinking, and computers can be creative as well. I don't know how, like if there's any progress towards that, but as of now,
Mm.
again, we have creative thinking minds. We are humans, and computers can't do that.
Oh, that's a very good
Yeah.
point. It's very interesting how, a math such as like so logical, such as math, also requires human creativity within to have new breakthroughs and innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the thing about computer science is that, and like how it's different from natural science, is like it's a place where you can build your own world, kind of like natural science. You discover the world that we're living in, and you try to apply the knowledge to the world that we're living in. But for computer science, you build a different world, and you write or your own rules about that particular world. Suddenly think about that Angry Bird project that I did on finding the Angry Bird planet's gravitational acceleration
I
project.
love that project. Love that project.
Oh, yeah. So I do think like computer science right now. I think also an interesting thing about CS is that now a lot of things, the way computers learn, are through statistics. Previously, is through logic. Before, I think computers, we did try to use that method, but now most of them are through feeding them with data statistics and allowing them to find a pattern through that. I think in terms of that, it's definitely at this particular point, humans are smarter than that. Like they can't recognize the difference between a cat and a dog. Like it takes them, and that's when they have seen cats and dogs for millions images, and they still do that mistake. So I guess like right now, in terms of like this concern, like AI is going to replace us, I think there's still a long way to go. But how long? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's probably a long way to go. Maybe if you do better, maybe it's gonna be shorter.
Whoa.
But yeah, maybe people are concerned that it's gonna replace us, but I'm actually I embrace technology in the sense that I think it's helpful, and if it's going to replace what I can do, I feel like we can always find new jobs. Like
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Agree. Yeah, there's definitely jobs that you only human can do. And okay, so now I will move on to like something related to education. I think so. The first one is something like I think we can hear, especially this is from like a Western point of view, because honestly, I never really heard too much about this when I didn't like get too much exposure of like Western viewpoints, but like this statement of Asians are good at math. And like after doing some research, I realized that this is somehow backed up with like some logical reasons, such as it's easier to understand in the Chinese language in terms of like the numbers, because every number is a monosyllable, and the number naming system is also very easy. If you compare with like French, where 80, the way you say it is basically 2 times 40. And then in English, 11 and 12 are very different than like 13, 14, 15, 16. And I also like had a chat with a professor from my research project, and she's from Germany. And then she said like in German, the way they say it's also different. Like they say the digit number first, and then the tenth, the hundredth, like they say it in the opposite, like a switched way. So I just wanted to know about the stereotype, like, what's your opinions on mathematics being a field that has like a lot of Asians pursuing it? And do you think it's really about the language, or is it about education and how it's being taught in Asian countries? Yeah.
Well, this language point is quite interesting. Like,
Mhm.
I've never really thought about it.
Mm.
But I feel like I feel like a bigger reason why, well, I don't want to claim that Asians are good at math, but I feel like the reason why this seems to be true is because uh, I feel like the Asian way of educating,
Mm.
um, we are drilled to do more math since a younger
Yeah.
age, and that makes us better at like computations. That's what I'm saying.
Mm.
Uh, so here's a difference. So
Mm.
in secondary school, like when we're taught, well, I use calculus because that's something we've all learned. So if you're trying to get good at integration, if you do
Mm.
100 integrations,
Yeah.
you are the next time you see an integration problem, you're gonna recognize which rule, like which rule to use, and you're gonna get better. Okay,
Mm.
in this sense, since Asians are probably drilled more, I think that helps us in problems like that. But
Yeah.
one of the major differences between secondary school math and university math is that
Mm.
uh, when it comes to university math, it's less of memorization and applying the same method over and over again. You have to, well, first of all, sometimes even maybe in real life, when you've talked about before this podcast, like
Mhm.
business consulting and stuff,
Mm.
sometimes the question itself is not well defined.
Mm.
And in those fields, I feel like drilling, uh, like repeated practice, like that's going to be less useful because it requires more critical thinking. And again, in university, when you're trying to do proofs and stuff, you might
Mm.
learn more and more techniques, but more often than not, different like we each proof is almost many proofs are unique in its own way, and we have to uh one of my professors call it relational learning as opposed to
Mm.
I forgot the term for the other one. We have to find the relation between different things we've learned as opposed to applying a fixed formula, an algorithm. And that's why I feel like uh, I don't really think that drilling and doing a lot of math problems really make Asians better at math, especially in uni. I feel like that's probably a stereotype. Um,
Mm.
maybe I will look into it. I'll see, like,
Yeah.
I'll ask my British friends, like, oh, do you really think I'm better at math?
Mm.
And I'll see what they think. But yeah, the education system is definitely very different.
Mm.
But it'll be interesting, like for you, maybe, to go back, look through your high school material and see how many integration problems you've done. Like maybe you've really done a lot of problems, and that's why when it comes to like simple computations like this, Asians are better. But
Mm.
I disagree that like Asians are just better at math in general. If anything, when I've in the 1 year I've been in UK, I feel like Chinese students sometimes struggle with the math we're learning because they're used to learning math in Chinese. And the fact that
Mm.
a lot of math is developed, it's taught in English, I feel like that poses an added challenge to Chinese, Asians. Like there's a language barrier there. And um yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think what also impacts us, like it's like the stereotype, right? Like we personally can think like there's no such thing like Asians are good at math. Like anyone can potentially be good at math and do it regardless of like your race. And however, the society has definitely have the stereotype. So like what are some pros and cons of such stereotype? I think, yeah, basically one of the pro possibly like might be easier for Asians to get into STEM subjects for university because like yeah, people feel like you are capable of doing this. However, some individuals who doesn't fit into the stereotype might feel left out. And also speaking about education, I think another con is that since I have applied to like US universities, and one of the thing is if you do the stereotypical Asian activities, like you're good at math, you're unlikely like your chances of getting accepted to those universities significantly drop because you're just so stereotypical. So yeah, like I just want to see what are your views on this a stereotype and how do you think that will impact people who want to pursue mathematics major or wants to get a job that's related to this field?
Well, personally, I don't think I've been a victim of the stereotype as much as you would think.
Yeah.
I um at the end of the day, uh I feel like when you're trying to get a job or if you're trying to get into research, it's your ability that really makes a difference. Whether you're male or female, Asian or British, like I
Mm.
don't think it makes that much of a difference. I hope it doesn't make that much of a difference. Maybe Asians, we spend way too much time on schoolwork. We're neglecting our development outside of school. Since coming to university, that's one thing I've realized. Like develop, you need personal development outside of academics, and that's probably something we've neglected in secondary school. And well, you're still young. You have plenty of time to explore the world, uh, meet new people. So
You sound like a grandpa. Oh my god.
yeah, yeah.
Quarter life crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, like on that regards, I do agree. Like, yeah, there are, I think definitely, especially in US universities, like grade is definitely not the only thing they consider. You have to put like a lot of extracurriculars, whether they are academically related or something else other than that. And yeah, I think there's just stereotypes for sure will exist, but then I do think that if you think more, the more you think about stereotypes and the more you're going to get affected by it. Like yeah, like maybe some people are just crappy people, like they didn't just directly do that to you. Yeah, like they didn't just be crappy to you because of your like basically of your race. But then I just want to also like kind of say that is like if you even if you think you're being discriminated because like by racism, like it's not your fault, like it's those crappy people's fault. But then like the thing we can control is like we can like kind of definitely have more control in terms of how we take in that information, like how other people react. I think it's something I want to change, but I do understand that I don't have that much power to change it. I think we have talked so much about like, education, and I think you have some really, really good views on how um, mathematical education is different in university compared with like high school or even primary or early mathematical education. So yeah, I
Well,
kind of want to see how, like, what's your advice for high school students or just anyone who wants to start and pursue mathematics?
right. The first thing you should do if you want to, if you're considering about taking math in uni,
Mm,
is to discover what math in uni actually is.
yeah.
Because, as I've said, it's actually the skills. Like you can be very good at computing, like basic. Like you can be very good at computing, and that would probably help you achieve a very good grade in secondary school. But
Mm,
that may be less useful in university, and vice versa. Maybe you're really bad at computing, but you have really good critical thinking. You deal with abstract ideas very well. Then you might excel in university math. So the first thing you should do is find out what uni math is. Like, there are plenty of resources online. Just go have a look, watch maybe some sample lectures, and see if you enjoy it. Don't one thing one thing I should say is don't choose math because you got a high grade in secondary school for math. It's it's helpful, but it's going to be different. And some people, I know some people who are really struggling to deal with that jump, the difference between secondary school and uni math. And that's because they are used to doing so well in secondary school and they were not prepared to learn in a different way, I suppose. In secondary
Yeah.
school, you can honestly do very well by simply doing loads of practice questions.
Yeah.
Joshua with
No.
the nod. Joshua nodded immediately.
No, he pointed at you.
12 years.
Exactly. So yeah, that's actually a way of learning secondary school math, but that's not going to get you very far in uni. You need to actually understand. You need to think about it. One thing I remember the first thing, like in a welcome session in year one, the math department said, you should not enjoy mathematics because you're good at it. Enjoy the struggle. Mathematicians enjoy it because we struggle and we try to solve a problem where we can't solve it like first time. Like there's probably no point in solve every problem at first glance. Well, it's probably gonna be good, but it's probably not that fun. I feel like people enjoy it because it's challenging.
That's a very good mindset, but not relatable.
Yeah.
Talia saw the struggle and dipped.
Yeah. She was
Yes, oh my God.
Mommy, I'm not here to struggle.
Yeah. Actually, okay, that actually leads to the next question that I have, which is like also the last question. But before that, like I also want to say like there's so many things related to math, like finance, engineering, a lot of things. Okay, like don't look at these math people and think, oh my God, they're so cool. I.e. John. Like I'm pretty sure at some point they're gonna end up in the finance field. Okay, like, that's what they do. But anyway, like I want to actually lead that question up to the next one, which I think we briefly touched upon in Joshua's part, where like we discussed about emotions and personal beliefs. And in this case, I actually want to bring emotions and personal beliefs when it comes to pursuing a mathematics major in the long run, because I think like people have told like, oh, math requires talent, like you have to get this mathematical sense, like what you said, you have to have this critical skill. It's no longer just computation, is no longer just practicing, but you have to get this sense of math. So I just want to know, like, what do you think? Do you have to be talented to choose mathematics in uni? And also how does emotions or personal beliefs, being burnt out from this subject, or personal believing that you can't do it and dipped like me, like yeah, just how do you think about this talent, which for a lot of people it seems like it's something you can't really change too much. It's basically a born God-given talent for critical thinking and to do math. Like
that's do you think I'm talented?
Answer carefully.
You see, so
I don't know. I really don't know, because the thing is, I remember in like before I beat y'all boys in math.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's
honestly.
That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think I'm talented. I don't think I'm doing extremely well, actually, to be fair. But I don't think I feel like you can learn how to learn. So people who feel like they're not talented, it's because they're trying to learn without knowing how to learn. And I feel like that's why they struggle and they don't like what they're doing. But I'm pretty sure if you start learning how to approach math properly, you can actually improve a lot. And yeah, Telia was like, honestly, Telia, I don't like the word beat because math is not it's not a competition. But you can definitely get better. It's
Mm.
something that is you can work on it. That's what I'm saying. So choose math if you like math. Like you talking
Mm.
about emotions, belief. Don't choose math because you think you're good at it. Choose
Mm.
math because you think you're gonna enjoy it.
Wow, nice. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I completely agree. Like having a really great guidance in math, I think it's important. Like learn how to learn math. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think so many people, like you said, the struggle, like they are also beaten down by, I guess the contrast with their performance in math. Like they realize that, oh, university math is very different. And then before I excel at it, and why am I like not understanding anything? Like I think that emotional aspect definitely also played a significant role. And like, yeah, I think I also just thought about like the learn to learn math part, like also a field medalist in 2022. Like I think he didn't even consider mathematics at all. Even in high school, he wanted to be a poet, and then not even in undergraduate, he was pursuing math. Like it was until like 20 something, a very later part in his life, where he kind of realized that he's very interested. So yeah, I do feel like so many people get beaten down by math, and also especially how it's like very different from their expectations. So yeah, I think that was some really nice words, John. Yeah, that makes me want to have a look at math, maybe just for fun, not as a major. Yeah, but yeah, I think I can definitely see a lot of math and application in the subjects that I'm interested in, and like especially with data, right? Because like data is literally everywhere nowadays, and
Yeah.
in data, how to extract good data. I think that's the more important question right now, because there's so many sources that are unreliable.
I think you touched on a really good point just now when you talked about, how Asians sometimes struggle to really study math in English. So
Mhm.
I would like to ask, in what way do you think a language can actually affect how like mathematics develop? Because, in the sense that, quite often we kind of isolate these two, language and mathematics, since they seems to be in different realms. But how do you think, language has a role in shaping how math is taught and how math is learned, or even like how math is done and used?
Well, I I think that it's not only math. When you're trying to learn anything, uh, you need to understand the language. I feel like one thing I liked about our school is since a very young age, instead of like starting with like bombarding us with like scientific knowledge and stuff, we start by learning language. We develop a good foundation for language so that we can learn better in the future. And I feel like math is no exception. Like as I've mentioned, I had a few friends who really struggled in the UK when they're studying math. Like I feel like they're brilliant mathematicians because when I speak to them in Chinese, they know everything. But they really struggle in lectures with assignments. Like they don't understand the terms. Um, they struggle to express what they know, and that could really trouble people in the process of learning. And that's why uh, language is very important. And I'm not sure, but I feel like most like even in Hong Kong when you learn math, is it in English like in uni? Are lectures delivered in English?
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So for people who are not as proficient in English, that might uh obstruct them from
Mm.
properly learning math. And so yeah, language is very important. Hmm.
Yeah, and I also think, like, to be honest, that is not a problem with the person itself, like who just didn't understand math. But like I think there's so many fields out there where research papers, academia are like most of them are dominantly in English. And I think that it definitely restricts a lot of very talented people to, get access to knowledge, and how like basically monolingual the academia field is. I think, yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that the academia field can also reflect. And yeah, I also completely agree with how language is important, even though we feel like, oh, math is itself is somewhat a language, and like you just need to know how to write and do this. It's almost universal. But yeah, I remember when I first came to Hong Kong, I really struggled with math, and I was only in primary school, and that's when I struggled. Like I don't even know what a parallelogram is. Like what is that?
Neither
Yeah,
do
so
I.
yeah, that means yeah, after you get past that language barrier, I think I started to beat y'all in math. Like started
John says it's not a
Yeah,
competition.
it's not a competition.
okay.
Actually, I feel like uh we very often treat math as a language in itself. But I think one thing we're not realizing is math is just a way we express these ideas. When like during our introduction courses, we are told to write math in such a way so that it can be read out loud in plain English. And I feel like that, well, if you fact like not a language expert, but I believe that stuff like grammar, sentence structure, like they might be different, like between different languages. And so the way I write math right now is probably based on English as well. So I feel like yeah, there's definitely a very strong connection between language and math.
Right. Thank you so much, John. That was really insightful information about mathematics, and we're like so happy to have you, and you definitely have given us like really creative things about your views on mathematics. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Uncommon Senses. 喂，John 好好啊，好好啊，你嘅 interview。
你個 podcast 好 pro 啊咩料？